Like this show and want to make your own? Let me tell you about Anchor. It's free, and they have creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And now you can even add any song from Spotify directly to your episodes. The possibilities are endless for what you can create, whether it's music analysis, your own radio show, or something the world's never heard before. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. And you can also make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hi, and welcome to the Vocal Fries Podcast, the podcast about linguistic discrimination.
I'm Megan Figueroa.
And I'm Carrie Gillen.
This week, we have so much about words.
Yes,
we are
words. Word
fiends, which is true anyway, but now we get to share it with the world.
Yes.
So not only do we have an interview with a lexicographer about a book about words, but Dictionary.com just dropped a mass. They just dropped a ton of new words into the dictionary.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really excited about, a lot of them.
Yeah, there were some fun ones.
Yeah, I mean, there's some ones that I would just, never use. Oh, okay, so, I just have, lots of feelings about all of them. But did you know elevator pitch wasn't in there?
Yeah, I did know that. And I didn't, but then I saw that last week or whatever.
I feel like I've been tortured by people making me do elevator pitches for so long that I'm surprised it hasn't been in the dictionary until now.
Yeah, it's been around for a long time.
Yeah. So I don't know how it didn't get in there before. I mean, I do know how it works. I'm not trying to...
Well, welcome to the future dictionary.com.
Yeah. Joining us all here.
In the 20th century.
Yeah. They added JOMO, Joy of Missing Out. And I feel that was a quick turnaround. I feel like it just, yeah, I don't know.
I'm not sure when it was first used, but it seems like it would have been first used in the past 2 years max.
Right? I feel like it was a Broad City thing when there was FOMO came up, and then we've been talking about...
Oh, they invented it?
I don't know, but it was at least for me, became popular, and I started hearing it everywhere after that. Because, again, maybe I was noticing it. I don't know, but...
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen that episode. So I've definitely seen it, not because of them.
Yeah. And then, of course, we got Latinx and Chicanx, and that just, opens up a door to all sorts of people being angry. But
Indeed.
Yeah. But glad to see those. What about... Okay, so there's some really important ones, like colorism is there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you should explain what that is, because I bet you not everybody knows.
Yeah, so Dictionary.com defines colorism as...
Perfect.
Differential treatment based on skin color, especially favoritism toward those with a lighter skin tone, and mistreatment or exclusion of those with a darker skin tone, typically among those of the same racial group or ethnicity. So... Latinx people have a problem with colorism, so I get better treatment because I'm all light-skinned over here, and we often have a erasure of Afro-Latinx people, so that is colorism. Something we all got to work on, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it's definitely not just the Latinx community that is guilty of that.
No, I'm just calling us out because I can.
Yes.
But a lot of fun white ones. So white lash, white guilt, and white fragility. Have you heard white lash a lot?
I don't think I've ever heard it, but I 100% understand what it means. So
yeah, so the Dictionary.com is saying that a good example of it is Black Panther, and its success sparked some white lash.
Mm-hmm. Is there male lash as well for things like Captain Marvel?
Now there is, Carrie. Congratulations.
Not to take away from White Lash, but I'm just curious because it seems like those two things were interrelated.
Well,
same group of people.
Well, yeah, seriously. The first male lash, did you say man lash or male lash? Male.
I said male lash, but maybe man lash is better.
Yeah, just because of mansplaining and but Ghostbusters would have been like the first one, right? And then
it was probably the first one
in recent memory that I'm really thinking of.
Well, of this kind, yeah, I think it was the first, yeah.
And now Captain Marvel.
Well, it was just worse. Like they were like more coordinated, I think,
for Captain Marvel. Time. Yeah. Well, you know how they are on their subreddits, getting shit together to be angry.
No, it's 4chan or 8chan.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Reddit.
I mean, Reddit's not great, but it's not the real cesspool.
Yeah. It's the real cesspool, that's sure. And then, so I still don't know what shitposting is.
What?
I know.
Oh, wow.
I know, but it's telling me. So how would you define it? Or an example?
So I'm in a shitposting group on Facebook. I was like sort of added. It's where you post something just to be like for the lulz completely. Right? It's not like you're actually like, I have this belief. It's just more like, I'm gonna piss people off by posting this.
And are good people doing shit posting?
Yes, but but it's all like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're in a shit posting group, like everyone knows what's going on. You're not hurting anybody because everybody knows.
Yeah. Sure.
But like in general, yeah, it's bad people.
Yeah.
or people who don't give a shit, I guess.
Yeah. Trolls. Like legit trolls. And then a few more that I think are very, very important for different reasons. So there's media literacy.
What? That
I know.
Is not like, wow, that seems so old.
I know.
Maybe not as old as elevator pitch, but
well, look, so whatever the behavior, they say, now seems to be the right time for this edition, even though it dates back to the 1970s.
Yeah.
So it is the right time for sure.
Well, I think we're actually like a couple of decades behind,
but yeah,
like if only people had been more media savvy.
I know. Okay, another really important one is rage quit.
Oh my god, I love that word so much.
And thirst trap.
Oh yeah, it's a good one.
And whelp.
WHELP or WELP?
WELP.
Oh, okay.
I love myself some whelp.
I enjoy it too, but it's interesting that they've decided to add it because it feels very much like a word that's not really used outside of the internet. I could be wrong.
Huh. No, I've said whelp out loud. But like purposefully. Very purposefully. Yeah. And then just like another one that's important, but like for more serious reasons is imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome. Another one that I couldn't believe wasn't already in there.
Yeah, that's really old as well.
Yeah. And this is not criticism to the lexicographers at all. It's just like it's
just surprising.
Yeah, it's just
actually
surprising.
Like mad or anything.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to write new letters. This is not letter writing time. Yeah, so
cool. Yeah, that's an interesting bunch.
Yeah, no, I love when these things drop because I think it is a time for like
reflection on what we have in our language, the words we use.
Yeah. Oh, toxic masculinity, like all of these things kind of makes you like stop in at the male gaze.
Male gaze.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my goodness, this seems so old too.
Right. It was first formulated in a feminist film theorist Laura Mulvey's 1975 essay, Visual Pleasure in Narrative Cinema. But yeah, so not only is it kind of fun to like reflect on these, but you can learn a lot if you go deeper into where these things came from.
We would like to thank our newest patrons from last month.
Yeah. Lena
Rothfarb, Katie James, Tom Donahue, and that one guy. So thank you so much. And if you want to support us as well, and you should, because we need all the help we can get. And I really, really, really do want to start paying someone to do the transcriptions for us. You can find us at patreon.com/vocalfriespod. And if you support us at the $1 level, $3 level, $5 level, all of it's awesome.
Everything helps.
But if you want the bonus episodes, that's the $5.
Yes. Yes. You get one every month.
Every month. And if you want to suggest a topic for us for the bonus, always feel free. We take suggestions.
Yeah.
Or for regular episodes as well.
Yeah, we got some things working in the works that were suggestions by people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's really helpful. So thank you so much.
We have another book to add to the Vocal Fries approved book list.
Ooh, that reminds me. The publisher is sending a copy soon.
I know,
so
I'm
excited.
That. Yeah, we got to look at a PDF of this book that we're about to talk about. And it's so fucking cute. I cannot even. I'm so happy that we're going to get full color, hard
physical copies. Yes. And everyone should buy one.
And now we're just teasing them, so maybe we should just get to it.
All right, so our episode today is with Jane Solomon about the Dictionary of Difficult Words.
Yay! I'm really excited to say today that we have Jane Solomon with us. She is a lexicographer based in Oakland, California, who works on various projects for Dictionary.com. Yay, dictionaries! She is also on the Unicode Emoji Subcommittee, the group that decides what new emoji will pop up on our devices. We invited her to chat with us because she has a new book coming out, The Dictionary of Difficult Words, which is a children's book about words. It also teaches children how to use dictionaries, and it comes out on April 30th, but you can pre-order it now. Thank you for coming onto the show, Jane.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I've been following you for a while because of your dictionary.com work, and I just love your Twitter. So everyone listening should follow. But when I saw that you had this book, I was really excited because this is something I would have wanted as a kid.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, me too. I feel so lucky that I got to write something like this.
Okay, so let's actually step back a second and define what it is to be a lexicographer. So what is a lexicographer?
A lexicographer is someone who writes and compiles dictionaries. So I call myself a lexicographer. I write definitions for Dictionary.com. I also work on other kinds of things, other projects for them. I work on things like trending word research and word of the year research, word of the day. I also do a lot of media outreach for Dictionary.com. So I'm used to talking to people who know nothing about how dictionaries are made and explaining how the magic happens, because it does seem like magic to people who are not involved in the process.
Yeah. So how did you become a lexicographer?
So I studied English and linguistics as an undergrad. I was at Northwestern University. I was only a linguistics minor. I want to put that out there. I was an English major and a linguistics minor. And then my last semester at college, I saw that a guest lecturer was coming to teach a class on lexicography. And that is when I learned that lexicography existed. So this is my senior year, my last semester at college. I was actually a part-time student at the time, so I decided to take it to audit the class. It was taught by Erin McKean, who is when people think about lexicographers, she has done so much public speaking about lexicography. People often think of her. She has a famous TED Talk that she did. And
yes, exactly.
And it stopped now, but for several years after that TED Talk came out, people would send it to me because they knew I was a lexicographer and say, "Have you seen this?" And then I was like, not only have I seen this, Erin is someone who got me into the industry. Like, she recommended me for my first few jobs. So basically I audited her class. I loved it. I did all the homework because I'm a huge nerd. And then I probably should have just taken it for credit, but whatever. I didn't want to pay for it. And then right after the class was over, that's when I graduated. And, at the University of Chicago, they were hosting the next Dictionary Society of North America, and that was happening maybe a day or two after I graduated. And Erin was looking for students to volunteer, so I volunteered at that. Met some lexicographers. Thought this is a really exciting and amazing thing to learn and to dive into, and that's sort of where my career started.
Wow, that sounds really fun.
Yeah, and like I feel like if you're a word nerd or a nerd and you're like a little kid who wanted a book like the Dictionary of Difficult Words, a lexicographer is kind of like a dream job.
Oh, sure. I mean, I didn't even know it was a job. And I was never a kid who sat and read dictionaries cover to cover. That was not me. And you hear
Right.
that's the origin story of a lot of lexicographers. Oh, I sat and read a
Really?
dictionaries cover to cover.
Oh,
I read
wow.
encyclopedias cover to cover. And that for me, that was never something I did. I mean, I read a lot and I was very into reading. Um, and I really appreciated dictionaries because I was a terrible speller. I still am a terrible speller. I don't know that I could be an editor if I didn't have the tools that I have. I think it's more important for editors to understand when they don't know how to spell a word, so then they can use the resources around them, like dictionaries, to figure out, okay, what's the accepted spelling of this word. So yeah, I mean that. I guess there were some clues that I was interested in this. Like I have a twin sister who is also a lexicographer,
What?
and well, I
Oh,
got
you
it.
didn't know that?
I got into
That's
it.
amazing.
Have Have you heard of wordreference.com?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I mean that it's really popular, especially for other languages. I think it's really popular for Spanish. I
Hmm.
heard it was
Mm.
one of the top websites in Spain. So anyway, she works there, and I'm not sure what her title is. She manages a lot of people and a lot of different projects there. But she works in sort of like multilingual lexicography, whereas I work in monolingual lexicography, monolingual English lexicography. But yeah, when I started getting into it, I included her, and she got really excited, and um, she started doing that kind of work too.
That's
Wow.
amazing.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
But we need to know, what is a dictionary?
Yes. It's actually, it's not as, I mean, it seems like a simple question, but if you think about it, how would I define it? I don't actually know. A
Okay.
collection of words?
Well, I think how we would define it, and I don't know. I think you two are about my age. I'm in my mid 30s. How we would define a dictionary is very different than how like a child today might define a dictionary. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
how we would define a dictionary is pretty similar to how someone a couple hundred years ago might define a dictionary. So it basically dictionaries have been there hasn't been that much change in how we think about dictionaries for a long time, and now suddenly over the last 15 years, 20 years, a lot has changed. So in terms of what is um, a dictionary, the dictionaries that I grew up with and what people our age think of when they think of dictionaries are a collection of words and their meanings. We often will think of a book, even though I never use paper dictionaries anymore, unless it's like a really rare dictionary and I'm referencing something. But for general everyday use, I always use a digital tool. So the aspect of like alphabetical order is sometimes lost
Yes.
if you're
Oh my
using a digital
gosh.
dictionary, and
I've
that's
never thought of
okay.
that. Sorry. I'm stuck on that because that's right. When I first learned how to use a dictionary, I was like, I'm so bad at alphabetical order. It's so hard to find the words. But that's not a thing anymore.
Yeah, and there's often predictive lookup. So you start to type out a word and it guesses, oh, it fills in the
Yeah.
blanks. So how we interact and use dictionaries is really, really different. I think that in the past, there's been a lot of brand loyalty for dictionaries. You might be given like a paper dictionary. This is for people who are our age or older. You might, like, if you, for a big event, like you graduate from high school or something, you might be given a dictionary, and then you use that dictionary and you reference that dictionary for years and years and years and years. Um, and you think of that brand when you think of dictionaries, and you trust that brand. I think today it's a little bit different. People are more source agnostic. You want to find answers to your questions about language, and you don't really mind what the source is, as long as it's the answer you're looking for.
Right.
That's interesting.
But as a lexicographer, um, you're constantly looking at as many dictionaries as you can reference, because you want to see, if you're defining a word, you want to see, does this other dictionary cover that sense of the word? Does this other dictionary, how does this dictionary treat this word? How do other dictionaries treat this kind of language, especially if it's like language that's changing or very sensitive? You want to see, what are other people out there doing, and is that something that we want to do? Do we want to go in a direction like that? Do we want to go in a different direction? Also, when you're writing definitions, especially for very, well, I would say for really specific types of definitions, you want to make sure you're not plagiarizing accidentally another dictionary by using the exact same wording. Because if you're trying to distill the meaning of a word into, a small sentence or a small fragment of a sentence, you want to, sometimes you gravitate towards similar words, especially if it's like a very specific kind of word, like maybe something that's scientific or something like that. You have to be technical in how you define it. So you want to make sure that whatever you're saying is not exactly the same thing that anyone else has said.
Right.
This is a question that you probably get a lot, and that when I was teaching a class called English Words, I would get a lot is what makes a word real? How does it get into a dictionary?
So what makes a word real? I'll answer that first, but before I answer that, the name of your class sounds amazing, and I wish I could be your student.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's the reason why I knew Erin McKean, is because I would use her TED Talk. And I would have discussion board posts because I was like, I really wanted to hear what the students thought about it, like what makes a word and what makes a word real. And it blows people away. They just, we really don't think about it deeply until someone asks us, I think.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that from the outside, if you're just a person who is not a lexicographer, not a linguist, and I think what makes a word real is also related to what makes a sentence grammatical, and the way that linguists talk about, is the sentence grammatical. Um, these are constructs, right? This is the but actually, I have a section in my book about like what makes a word real, and maybe that's why you're asking this, because I know that you've seen it.
It is.
so
Yeah.
so I think if you are not a lexicographer or a linguist, um, you think that you need sometimes you think that you need an authority to tell you this word is real. So you think, oh, if it's not in a dictionary, it's not real. But that's not how lexicographers think at all. Because we know better. We know that there are lots of words that we just haven't gotten around to defining yet. And that doesn't make the words not real. It just means that we haven't had the resources and time to go and give it lexicographical treatment and enter it in our dictionary. I we really don't think of ourselves as gatekeepers of language. We think of ourselves as documenters of language. So we're documenting language as quickly as we can. We're trying to keep up. We will never keep up. The work of a lexicographer is never over, because language is constantly evolving. And we don't decide what's right, what's real. speakers of the language decide that by using the words.
Yeah, and that's why I asked the two questions together, because I had a feeling that that's how it would come out.
Well, and the question of how does a word get into a dictionary, you have to understand what a word is first, and what a real word is
Yes,
first.
yeah, exactly.
And so there are requirements that we have. It has to be in widespread usage. People have to actually want to look up the word because it takes a lot of resources to write each and every definition, a lot of research, and we don't want to spend time on something that people are going to not care about in 5 years, because we're not going to take these words out of the dictionary. So if it's a sort of like one day Twitter trend fad word, we're less interested in that than something that has some staying power. And maybe an example to talk about here is kofefe, or however you pronounce that, which was,
Yes.
Right.
a presidential typo. And as far as I know, we haven't added it. No, I'm pretty sure we haven't added it to dictionary.com yet. But there's a bill that is called casually the Covfefe bill, which is about it's about how presidents should not be allowed to block citizens on social media, because what they tweet about, what they share on social media is kind of like public information. And so if that bill, like, I'm not sure where that bill is right now, what's happening with it. But that's the kind of thing where if that becomes a law, then, and people start talking about that, by its more casual name, then that's a word that becomes relevant in a legal way in our country, in a different way. Well, maybe, are you both in the U.S.? One of you is Canadian. Who's Canadian?
Yes.
Carrie. I'm Canadian, but I live in the U.S.
Okay. Okay. So when I say our country, I'm just saying the U.S. You can think of it as your country or not.
Yes.
So yeah. So is Covfefe the bill? I mean, is that like an acronym that they've like purposely tried to create, or is it just called that sort of more like indirectly?
Oh, you mean like a backronym where you take like the word and then apply? Yeah.
Because that's pretty common in laws here.
Yeah. I don't think that it's an acronym. I think it was just a
Okay.
casual nickname for the bill.
Which is odd because like when I think of Covfefe, if I were to write a bill that had that as its name, or like even casually, I would think more like president should have to use Twitter more professionally, or like not just like tweet out something, let it stay for hours and hours, and people have no idea what's going on, right? But obviously, that's not the way the world works.
I'm wondering. Okay, so kofefe is something that is not a word as you've just described it, as one that is as in the dictionary because it has widespread use. What about when Cardi B on Twitter said, "I will dog walk you"? So dog and walk are both real words. If for some reason that picked up, dog walk, right? Like right now it's not widespread, but if that started to pick up, that might be something that could get into a dictionary one day.
So, I mean, I would have to do more research on the word dog walk, but my understanding of that is that it's actually a pretty common expression, um, in for just because, like, I mean, for me, I wasn't familiar with it before Cardi B tweeted it, but just because I, a white woman in my mid-30s, am not familiar with the term doesn't mean that it's a widespread term. So that's something to consider. Like, and also like, uh, when we talk about words, we're actually talking about lexical items, which are basically a unit you would look up in a dictionary. And sometimes they're multi-word expressions. Sometimes they're only one word. So I just wanted to clarify that, because I think that some people get hung up on the idea of like a word is one unit with no spaces. between the letters.
Right. So yeah, I looked it up on dictionary.com, and dog walker is on there, and it's a person who walks other people's dogs, especially for free. So that's why I'm wondering if, like, so something's in the dictionary, you might one day add more senses to it, right?
Sure, I can see a verb sense being added to that definition. Right. It's really interesting when I start to dig into like an individual word. If I'm writing a piece on the history of a word, I will often look and see what part of speech came into the language first. And that I always find that super interesting, and I am often surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I am such a word nerd because that is so much fun to know.
It is.
Like trace its history. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as I give myself chills thinking about the dictionary, it makes me wonder, why did you want to write a dictionary of difficult words for kids? What did you hope to accomplish?
I'll have to tell you how this whole book came about, which was it wasn't my idea originally.
Oh.
So basically it was the publisher's idea. So I got contacted by the publisher at Quarto Books, and they have a nonfiction imprint called Wide-Eyed Editions, and so I just got like contacted out of the blue. They found me through my blog, Lexical Items, and they contacted me and they said, we want to write a children's dictionary of difficult words, or we want to publish a children's dictionary of difficult words, and we're looking for someone with expertise to write it. And I actually was familiar with this publisher and also this imprint because I have a friend who is a children's book author and illustrator, and an award-winning children's author and illustrator, and she has published her first 3 books with them. At that time, she had 2 out. So I responded right away, and I was like, yes, I'm very excited. This sounds great. And then I wondered, maybe my friend recommended me, and that's how they found me. So I asked, and the publisher got back to me and said, actually, we found you by Googling Cool American Dictionary Editors Lexicographer. So they're a British publisher, and I think they wanted to expand more. Well, they have like a New York office and a UK, like a London office, and I think they wanted to have some more American authors. So that's how they found me, and I was thinking, wow, I have really, really good SEO.
Yeah,
if this is
no kidding.
anything that comes to me from that.
You need to put that on your resume.
Cool American Dictionary Editors, Lexicographer.
Yes.
And so then we started talking, and the publisher's original sort of concept for the book was that when she was a child, she won a spelling bee on the word photosynthesis, and she was so excited about that. She would define the word and spell it for anyone who would listen, and that kind of she wanted to capture that kind of excitement about language in a book. And I heard this and I thought, okay, photosynthesis is a really interesting and fun word, and I can definitely see how children would be attracted to that once they learn it. If this is like the most difficult word that they've learned in their life, how they would want to tell people about it. And then I was thinking, okay, well, what if we go harder, more difficult? And so I, in this call I had with them, I said, how about something like moonbow, which is a rainbow that appears at night, essentially, from refracted light of the moon. And they got really excited about moonbow, and they were just like, we trust you. And so from there, I made up a word list, and the word list has 3 levels. One of the level is these super obscure words that you would only find by reading old books, essentially. One level is words that are more common and adults would probably know, but they might have difficulty explaining to a 7-year-old, and a 7 to 12-year-old or 8 to 12-year-old, whatever the age range of the book is. And then the third set of words are words that adults would definitely know and would make them feel really good about themselves. Just to like boost their confidence.
Can we have an example of each one?
Oh, sure. So if we're looking at like, I'll just look at the letter A. So the level that is like very obscure, you would only find it in an old book, would be probably abecedarian, absquatulate, allorophyll. I could go on. There are a few others. And then for words that adults might know but have difficulty explaining to children, maybe aesthetic would be difficult to explain to a child because that's a kind of hard concept. Arcane, maybe. That's a word that, I mean, for years, the meaning of arcane was on the tip of my tongue, but I couldn't really explain what it meant. Maybe antithesis. And then words that adults would know, probably, I would say aloof, arid, arachnophobia. Um, that's the ones that are like the adults can be like, I'm so smart, I know these words that my child doesn't know.
Yes.
I mean, but honestly, what I expect is this book, I want it to be interesting to adults as well as children. It's written so a child could understand it.
Oh, it is.
And it's written with
Yeah.
the approach that a child doesn't know any of these words. You know, some children might know some of these words, or some children might have heard some of these words. But I just am assuming that most children will not know the definitions of any of these words. How I also wrote it is thinking about like, okay, what will keep an adult interested? What about adults who don't have children in their lives? I, I, I don't have any children. I have a niece and a nephew who are, so I guess nibblings, who live in another state. So I don't interact with children that much. So I wanted to write something that would be interesting to someone who just likes words and beautiful illustrations. So that was my approach.
I think that you knocked it out of the park. I love looking
Yeah,
at
it's
this.
so fun.
It's so fun.
But you know what? There's no photosynthesis.
Yeah, I was
Oh.
looking, where's photosynthesis?
You know, okay, so actually, I didn't put photosynthesis in the book because P is one of those letters that there are so many good words.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there are a lot of good words here.
So I'm going and looking at P right now. Yeah, I mean, there were so many fun words for P that I felt that photosynthesis was maybe almost too easy to put in this book because the leveling made it so that photosynthesis was like the lowest level of word that would be there in terms of like adults know what it is and probably can explain it to a child.
Right. So what's your favorite entry in this dictionary?
So, asking a lexicographer what their favorite word is a really.
I know, it's so mean,
I
Carrie.
know,
It's a difficult
but you
question.
wrote this, so it's a little different than like the entire dictionary.
Sure. It's a selection. So I guess I have so many answers to this question. So officially, because at the back of the book, there's a little section that has a notepad where you can write down whatever you want. And
yeah.
I'm hoping that people will use that for different things. They can either write down their favorite words, or like one of the ways to use this book would be to like go through the whole book and count how many words you know. Like use it as a vocabulary quiz so you could keep track of, you know, if you've learned the words. I'm kind of expecting the kids who have this book to learn all the words better than the adults would learn them. Because I feel like as a kid, you make yourself challenges like that. And as adults, maybe you don't have as much time or energy to pursue that. Because like, I mean, I work on...
Well, and the images too.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, the little pictures help you learn.
Oh, for sure. And for each letter, there's this featured word for each letter, and then there's a featured illustration. And so I would think that those ones would be, you can read those 26 pages like it's an alphabet book. So I'm thinking that those ones people will learn faster than just the ones that maybe don't have illustrations. But I mean, there are so many illustrations throughout the book. It's Louise Lockhart is the illustrator for the book, and she's so great. I was so
It's
excited when I
stunning.
learned
Yeah.
that she was like she has so much. She uses so many beautiful color combinations and textures. When I saw the first letter I wrote of the book was B, I wrote a sample for B. I don't know why I didn't just start with A. I think that I just had at that point thought of more interesting words for B than A. So that was the sample. And when I got back her illustrations from the sample, it really struck me that, oh, this is going to be a book that people who are not my mom will want. Like this is actually to
Yes.
be really, I'm really excited, and this is going to be really good because when you're working in a Google Doc, it looks
Yeah.
so different, and
Right.
and you don't know what it's going to feel like as a book. So anyway, the word at the back of the book that I say is my favorite word in the book is dapnosophist, which I define as someone who is very good at having interesting conversations with others while sitting down for a meal.
Oh, I love it.
I think that why I picked that word is because it is such, I think what makes a word really exciting and memorable and favoritable, I guess, is when it has a really, really specific meaning. And you learn about the word and you think, I never knew there was a word to describe that thing. Like, I know that feeling.
Yes. That's why my favorite word in this is petrichor, because I feel
Mm,
like it's a very specific word, and it's like I have a visceral reaction to it because it's the earthy smell that comes, as you define it, the earthy smell that comes from rain falling on soil, especially after it hasn't rained in a while. And I live in a desert, and oftentimes it doesn't rain in a while, so I definitely know what petrichor is.
yeah, it's a very evocative smell.
Yeah, it is. I enjoy rapscallion just because of the way it sounds.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's like sometimes the words are fun just because of how they sound. Sometimes they're fun because of the definition. Sometimes it's how they're spelled. Um, One of the ones that a word that's kind of special to me that I definitely wanted to include in this was haha, which is it's basically like an invisible fence. It's a fence that's a ditch rather than one that comes out of the earth. And if you're on like a big property and you have a haha, then it looks like your property goes on and on and on to the horizon rather than there being, a fence separating it. And I really like that word, and I know where I learned it. I learned it in high school from reading a Tom Stoppard play, Arcadia. And I mean, to me, I have these associations with some of these words, and they're really special and exciting. And uh, that's, I remember reading that play. I learned so many words from that. Another word I learned that is not in the book is carnal embrace, um, which I, as a high schooler, did not know what that meant. I would not share that with
Right.
children. I actually think that if I said that in front of a child, they would take it as I took it as as a 16-year-old. I mean, I was like, oh, okay, this is a euphemism. I mean, they might not even know what that means. They might just think
Yeah,
it's a
no.
hug.
Right.
Um, but yeah, you pick up words from different places in your life. Since I edit Word of the Day right now, and so that means that I encounter a lot of really obscure words in my day-to-day editing and work, but I also forget a lot of words. So part of writing this book, I was like, oh yeah, that word, it's so good. I forgot about it. And so that was really fun for me.
Yeah, and what about pronouncing? What about pronouncing these words? Like, do you know how to pronounce all of these words? Did you know
Oh,
before you wrote this book?
definitely not. So I actually I didn't do the pronunciations for the book. For the American edition, they're from dictionary.com. They were kind enough to let us license them. And for the British version, they're adapted for a British audience, because there's an American and British version of the book. Uh, I definitely, when you come across a word in reading, it's very common to not know how to pronounce it if it's a difficult word to pronounce. If it doesn't, like English spelling is not consistent in terms of phonology. And so there are plenty of words in this book that I don't know how to pronounce or I have to remind myself how to pronounce. I remember one of the words in the book is sesquipedalian, which is basically prone to using big words. And I learned how to pronounce this word because I had to like MC a spelling bee, and like it was a charity spelling bee, and this was one of the words that we had put in the spelling bee. And so I just kept on listening to the audio pronunciation and then repeating it back until it felt natural. Um, because that's like it that I think it's maybe the the I don't know, the Q in the middle of the word kind of like feels really squirmy, and it's not an easy word to pronounce.
No. No, I look at it now after you've said it. So I'm looking at the actual spelling and I'm like, okay, that looks hard. But when you said it, I was like, okay, I can do this. But now I'm looking at it, I'm like, I can't do it anymore. I don't remember. How do you pronounce it?
Even though the pronunciation is right below it.
I know. Ignoring that part. It reminds me of how every time I want to say like omnipotent, I have to think so hard because I always want to say omnipotent. Like every time. Because of how it's spelled. So spelling does a lot with our mind.
I do that with misled. I always want to pronounce it misled.
Wow, okay.
I think that for me, I remember pronouncing myopic. Or is it myopic? Is it I don't even know now.
I don't know.
I think it's myopic. I remember pronouncing it in a way, and then someone said, "Isn't it the other one?" I don't even, and I remember that as like people will shame you for not pronouncing words right. But I think especially, if you're learning the words from reading, you don't always know how to pronounce them. So originally this book didn't have the spelled out pronunciations in it. But then we decided to add them in. And I'm glad we did, because I think the concept was that this would sort of be a jumping off point for kids, and then they would get excited about dictionaries and learn how to use dictionaries and as a tool and as something that as a resource that they could go to learn about words. So we weren't going to have pronunciations, but I think that it is nice to have them, because then this can be its own capsule of a book where you don't need to leave the book to go and learn how to say the words in the actual book. The first dictionaries in English didn't have pronunciations. They were more like lists of difficult words that were just vocabulary lists, basically, with quick definitions. They were often like really subject specific. Like you might, like a lot of dictionaries have a bunch of falconry words because there were some really subject specific, like vocabulary lists about the words you need to know if you're a falconer. And so, or if you're into falconry. And so I don't even know if falconer is a word, so please fact check that.
Sure, I mean, it is now.
It is now, yeah, exactly.
And definitely other lexicographers talk a lot about how there's a lot of plagiarism in lexicography because the first dictionaries were built on these vocabulary lists of difficult words. That was they were like, oh, let's take what's already there and then expand on it. So that this is both. I mean, this is firmly planted in in that rich history of lexicography in terms of not having all the words that you would ever want to look up in a dictionary.
Right. I mean, how can you ever capture that unless you have, yeah, a huge dictionary?
Oftentimes, when you write a dictionary for children or for people who are learning a language, you'll have what's called a defining vocabulary. And that means that when you write the definitions, you constrain the level and amount of words that you are going to draw from to write those definitions. So there were a lot of words that, every definition I wrote, I started by looking it up in like 10 different dictionaries and seeing, okay, how do these dictionaries define these words? And a lot of the words that are defining these difficult words, that, a lot of these definitions, they're not written for children. So that meant that a lot of the work was leveling it to a place that's appropriate for someone who's, 8 or 9. And so there were a lot of decisions I made there. And sometimes it meant that I had to write something in many more words than I would have written it if I was writing it for an adult. And I don't know if you noticed that while reading any of the definitions. Um, but like, let me find an example. So a lot of, okay, so cockalorum is an example, I guess. A lot of dictionaries use the word self-important when they're talking about what a cockalorum is. And I define cockalorum as someone who thinks that they are more important than they actually are. And so there's a lot, there's a lot of explaining that goes into talking to a child, because I mean I imagined I was talking to a 7 or 8 year old when I wrote all these definitions, and I also wanted to make sure they could be read aloud, which, because I imagine that this book will be read aloud in a way that dictionaries are not typically read aloud. um, so so that means that there are some things like I vary the style you know of adjectives more than I would probably if I were just writing a dictionary that wasn't meant to be read aloud.
I wanted to ask you about another choice that you made for your book. I think it's really cool that you use singular they. Will you tell us about that choice?
Oh yeah, so this was a very obvious choice to me. I didn't want to needlessly gender any definition or draw attention to gender in any definition um, that where it wasn't required. I also think that if a lot of times people, rather than using singular they, will use he or she, and I think that is 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 a problem for a few different reasons. One of the reasons is it's really clunky. It's hard to read out loud. It's hard to read not out loud. Um, and the second reason, which is I think more important, is that it excludes people. So I wanted to not draw attention to gender, but also not make anyone feel as they were reading this book that it was not for them. And gender comes into, like, I was just talking about cockalorum. A lot of old dictionaries will define cockalorum as a self-important man. And and some it's older dictionaries, usually some newer ones that maybe haven't been updated in a while. And I read that and I thought, was cockalorum defined as a self-important man because women were not at that time thought of as being important enough to be self-important?
Mm.
And that's something that I thought about as I wrote it. So I stripped the gender out of that um, entirely because it wasn't necessary to understand the meaning of it. And I don't want to exclude anyone who's non-binary in these definitions, or trans. So these, that's something that I took very seriously. And I actually have a usage note at the end of the book about that. And that usage note is not for the children because the kids who read this book will not notice it. I think that there are some adults who will notice it and they will want to be angry. And if the usage note sort of preempts that and says, by the way, this has been used in English for over 700 years. I'm a lexicographer. I say it's fine to use this. I'm using it in this way. You can use it in this way too. And, probably you're already using it in this way without realizing it.
Absolutely. Everybody does.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
cockalora,
Yeah.
is that like literally from cock? As in rooster?
Oh, I don't even remember what that's from right now.
Okay. Because
But
like then I would be
can
like,
look it
maybe
up.
that's why it was masculine at first, because it was like associated with roosters, but I don't even know.
But like I also for like a word like avuncular, which is you know, s- like an uncle, um I didn't want to I didn't want to put any gender in that because someone might be an uncle and um not be a man.
Yeah.
So so how I would define that is avuncular is a word that describes uncles and people who act like uncles. If someone is avuncular, they are helpful and friendly to people who are younger than them. So, getting at the spirit of the word without bringing gender unnecessarily into it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. I love that. I mean, like you said, people don't realize that they're already using it. There's no reason to be angry at this because this is just like common human decency at this point. And it's
Hmm.
been used forever. This is how we use it. Um it's so
It's simple,
simple.
and it's
Yeah.
also like they're lying to themselves if they think they don't use it. And so it's just like
Yeah.
it's strange to me how angry people get about language, when all it is just like reflecting what people are doing. But anyway, people get angry about
Yeah,
Yeah,
very silly
absolutely.
and
things.
you look at people are very selective about like their language history that they know and don't know.
Yeah,
There
yeah,
are a
yeah,
few
yeah.
things that they know and they get really, really upset about those. Like they know that when they were younger, they did not use they in that way. But then they're not looking at actual usage over time. And and even if they were looking at actual usage over time, language changes and evolves. And that that means that what you learned when you were younger might not be appropriate or considerate
Right.
language use when you grow older, and that's okay. There are lots of words. Oh, one example of this for me that I avoided in this book completely, a word that was used all the time when I was younger, and now it's a word that I avoid if I can. Sometimes it slips out because I'm so used to saying it, but I do try to avoid it out of respect, is the word crazy. And I I do not have the word crazy in this book at all. I also didn't put the word stupid in this book at all. Every time there was, looking up other definitions looking up definitions in other dictionaries where the word crazy or stupid was used, I thought, okay, what is this actually trying to say? And what is a way that I could explain this? So sometimes I would use the word silly or foolish, which, I don't know. I don't have the same associations with those words as I do with especially crazy. These are things that I thought about because I don't want to put any language in this book that would be harmful to people. And crazy is something that's becoming, just over the last few years really has been more a discussion with awareness of mental illness, um, more widespread awareness, and and I don't think that that's going to go away. So I want this book to still be appropriate and something that people wouldn't be offended by, in many, many years' time. So that's something that I sort of thought about as I wrote it.
Yeah, I think this is all very considerate, and I think that's excellent that you've made these decisions.
Yeah, I mean, this book is gonna to how do you say it? Hold the test of time. Nope, that's not it.
Stands the test of
Carrie,
time.
help me. Yes, stand it, not hold it. It's gonna stand the test of time because of these choices, and I think that that's really important. And I'm happy for the kids and the adults that get to read this because I mean, again, this wasn't something that I had as a kid, but also it's like there are really important and good choices that you made that are in this that I think make it even better. And I already think it's a great book, but those are really, really excellent choices, and I commend you on
Yes.
them for
Well,
sure.
thank you. I really appreciate you saying this because it was sort of, as I was writing it, it was in my head for a long time. And I was like, I'm making these decisions and I hope they will mean something to people or that they'll not notice them. Um, I want this work to be invisible. I want it to just be seamless in the book. But listen, I'm sure that in 20 years, there'll be something in this book that is offensive. And I just did not catch it, or
I mean,
I was not aware of it.
Yeah. I think that's probably true, but that's true of like literally everything. So,
right, we're learning and we're growing all of the time. I mean, it's
what
a good
I would
thing.
hope, my dream would be that this would be so popular that there'd be reprints, and then we'd like fix the things that are that need to be updated and changed.
Well, I definitely hope that's the case because I recommend it, absolutely. I feel like the Vocal Fry should have a book club because this is our second book, kind of like book interview, and I absolutely recommend everyone buy this for every child they know and for themselves. It's so delightful.
It is.
I would love to talk to you about emojis, but we're already at an hour.
Yeah. So let's have an emoji conversation another time.
Could we do that, Jane? Will you come back?
I'm happy to talk about emoji with you at another time.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
We can buy. Where are the places we can buy your book and pre-order at this point? If you're listening to it before April 30th.
So first of all, it is really, really helpful to pre-order a book, especially for a first-time author, because it indicates to the publisher that there's interest in the book, and also the pre-sales count toward the first week of sales. So if it is going to appear on a bestseller list, which would be, that would be amazing. I'm not expecting anything like that, but that all counts toward that. So you can pre-order it online. If you're in the US, I would say IndieBound is really, really cool because it will connect you with a indie bookstore near you, your favorite indie bookstore. There's also Amazon. And then, it's basically available at any online bookseller you could imagine. And then you could also ask your library to get it if you don't, it's not something you can afford right now. It's kind of pricey. I think it's $27. So you could ask your library. You can also go into your favorite local indie bookstore and ask them to stock it. Even if you're not going to buy it, that helps me. So those are places you can find it. And you can find me online at lexicalitems.com. And I also bought the domain dictionaryofdifficultwords.com and the Dictionary of Difficult Words, .com. So you can find me there. And also I'm active on Twitter. I have an Instagram account, but it's boring. I do have a fake Instagram account that is less boring, which is like an emoji. But it's a fake emoji one.
Well, so and on Twitter you're Jane Solomon, right?
Yes.
Definitely follow her on Twitter and learn a bunch of fun things. Well, thank you, and I hope that this book helps our future generations not be an asshole about words.
That would be a really great outcome. But even if it just teaches some people a bunch of words that are fun and delightful, that's okay with me too.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Well, thank you, Jane,
thank you.
And everyone, don't be an asshole.
That's an amazing sign off. Thank you so much.
The Vocal Fries podcast is produced by me, Carrie Gillen, for Halftone Audio. Theme music by Nick Granum. You can find us on Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at VocalFriesPod. You can email us at vocalfriespod@gmail.com, and our website is vocalfriespod.com.